Welcome to Ask the Expert, your go-to web series on business and personal finance. I'm your host, Nicole Pride. Today, we are joined by Ugoeze Achilike, who is the Vice President of Operations at WellCare Nurses, a family-owned home health care company that serves seniors and people with disabilities. Ugoeze brings a wealth of information and experience to the discussion today. She was raised in New Jersey after immigrating from Nigeria, and her entrepreneurial journey began just at 15. She later earned her BA in International Relations from American University and worked on global development projects with organizations like the World Bank. So we're having the discussion today about eldercare to help you financially prepare and for some of you to maybe find a better option. So listen to this statistic. According to the AARP, the average American family spends over $7,000 annually on out-of-pocket expenses. And this could be a strain for some families if you don't prepare. So today, Ugoeze will help us navigate these challenges, giving us insights about how to select home care services, planning financially, ensuring that there is a smooth transition to the caregiving experience. So thank you, Ugoeze. We are so happy to have you here today.
I'm happy to be here today, Nicole. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction.
Lovely. It's all you. This is your experience, and we're just so happy to have you here today. And so, speaking of your experience, how about you just tell us a little bit how you made the transition from all of that great international experience and how you're bringing that to WellCare?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I started my career working in international development at the World Bank Group, and then I went to work for a nonprofit for about 3 years. And during the pandemic, I think, similar to all of us, we all had our different ideas of what we wanted our life to look like and finding purpose in what we do. So I applied for a grant through the United States Department of Education, I believe, or through the State Department, to do a community development project in Nigeria, training smallholder farmers on regenerative agriculture and business skills. And I was there for about 4 to 6 months, and I had such an amazing time, pursuing entrepreneurship, launching something that had a positive social impact in my community, that I kind of decided I wanted to take a step back from, the traditional workforce and come work for my family-owned home care company. This company was started about 21 years ago now by my father,
Awesome.
WellCare Nurses. Yeah, we just celebrated our 21 year like a couple of weeks ago. So we're just so happy that we've been around for such a long time, because 20 years in this industry in healthcare, it is not easy. But I decided to transition to work for WellCare Nurses after witnessing my grandmother's experience in a local hospital and just realizing that the senior care industry needs to be so much better, because we're all getting old. And if we don't make the changes now, we're going to deal with the consequences in like 40 to 50 years. So that's how I was able to transition to WellCare.
That's so awesome. Your family must be so proud. I mean, that is the dream, right? You get all of this information, all these experiences, and then you bring it back to the family business. So that's just fantastic. So, okay, so today, obviously, we're here talking about home health care. And so can you just talk about what that is? I think not everyone understands exactly what home health care is all about, and it means different things to different people.
Yeah, sure. So like you said, home care means different things to different people. So here at WellCare, we provide personalized home care services, non-skilled, to seniors, people with disabilities, people who are coming home from the hospital, so post-hospital care. And there's two types of home care usually. There's skilled nursing, which is when a nurse comes to your home and provides you with services that you might receive in a hospital. So think, wound care or physical therapy or occupational therapy. And then there's non-skilled home care services, which are basically the services that help you thrive in your environment and the environment that you're comfortable in. So our aides help our members with activities of daily living. So this includes things such as, bathing, grooming, preparing your meals, light housekeeping, doing your laundry, running errands, going to the grocery shop for you, medication reminders, companionship. Having somebody to talk to on a day-to-day is so important as we age. So those are just a little bit about the services that we offer and what home care is.
And typically, companies that provide these services, do they do both or just one or the other? They specialize in skilled or they provide both skilled and unskilled?
It really depends on the company. A lot of companies are able to do both skilled and non-skilled home care services, which is great if you want to keep all the services that you need under one company. And then there are other companies that just do skilled nursing or non-skilled nursing. So I always tell people it depends on what the care needs of your family member is. And then based on that, that's how you begin the search for your ideal home care agency.
Mm-hmm. And so with WellCare Nurses, that is which of the categories?
We do non-skilled home health
Mm-hmm.
services. We're hoping in the next 3 to 5 years to expand and grow back into skilled nursing services like we used to in the past. But we
Mm-hmm.
really wanted to hone in on this area and see what we can do to improve it before expanding into skilled nursing services.
Mm-hmm. Are you finding, I guess maybe too, with like the baby boomers aging, are you finding that a lot of families are looking for the non-skilled, unskilled workers for just companionship, like you said, or assisted living?
Yeah, we have seen an uptick in the demand for home care services. And now the state of New Jersey is investing in helping home care agencies train future aides. So there definitely is a demand, especially post COVID. A lot of people want to age in place, they want to recover at home, because when you're at home, you're in an environment that you are comfortable in. You're with your family, you're with your friends, they get to come and visit you and have easier access. So those components are really important to most people. So we're seeing an increase in demand. A lot of people want to remain at home as they age because it's also cost effective. Nursing homes, assisted living facilities, they're also great alternatives, but sometimes for our wallets, they can be a little bit expensive. So home
Mm-hmm.
care is definitely a lot more cost effective.
Yeah. And so for someone who's just starting out and they said, okay, the responsibility is a little too great, particularly for, the generation that they call the sandwich generation. They're still caring for their kids, but then they have aging parents. And just between going to soccer games and caring for their parents, it just gets to be too much, right? And so if someone is starting to think about, okay, I need some support, where do they go? How do they get started? And what are some things that they should consider?
Yeah, we definitely meet a lot of adult children of seniors who are looking to get assistance with coordinating their parents' care. So the best way to get started is really to talk to your loved one first. You want to talk to that family member, whether they're a parent, a grandparent, introduce them to the idea, because believe it or not, sometimes people have a hard time getting on board with home care services just because they don't want to feel like they're losing their independence or they need a lot of help. But that's not the case at all. Like I said, we're here to help you enhance the quality of your life. So the best way to get started is to talk to your family member, see what they need. If you're their primary caregiver, you might already have an idea, like, mom or dad needs help with laundry, cooking, going to the park. They've been staying at home more. They're not getting outside and they need that cognitive engagement. So
Mm-hmm.
talking to your family member first and getting an assessment of what they need. And then from that, you can move on to the next stage, which is finding a home healthcare agency that's suited to the needs of your loved one. So things to consider, you want to make sure that you're working with an agency that is accredited. Here in the state of New Jersey, there's the CHAP accreditation and then there's the CHHA. You want to make sure they're accredited. You want to make sure that they're working with certified home health aides. A lot of this industry is very regulated, but despite that, a lot of people work without licenses.
Mm.
Yeah, so you want to make sure that the person that you're bringing to care for your loved one has, experience. They've been trained on this. They've been educated. You don't just want any random Joe off the street because
Yeah.
you're dealing with your family member's health.
Hmm.
So that's the second thing I would recommend. Narrow it down to about 2 to 3 options. Call around, get rates, figure out what the hours are, what a potential schedule could look like, what their processes, and ask a lot of questions. Don't be shy about asking questions because, like I said, it's your family member's health, or even it could be your health. A lot of people call us directly for themselves. So once you've checked the credentials, you want to then move forward with selecting an agency, with talking to your future aide, and really just coming to an understanding and communicating, making sure that they are able to provide the services and help your loved one or help you around the home in a way that empowers you and improves the quality of your life. That's
So I just want to stop you there. Can you just say the name of those accreditations again so that people will have them? And if there's a website that they can go to learn more about that accreditation, it'd be helpful.
Yeah, so there's CHAP, which is spelled like CHAP, and
Hmm.
then I don't know what the full like acronym is, and then
Yeah.
there's CHHA.
Hmm.
So those are the two accreditations. So you want to make sure that if you are working with a home care agency, they are certified, and they're not, unlicensed or anything, just for the safety of your family member or for yourself.
And then, are there, if you don't need the medical care, are there
Mhm.
any situations that would be off limits for, let's just say, for your agency that doesn't do the medical care right now? So, for example, if someone has a parent that's experiencing memory loss, do you still support that family?
Yes, we still support those families. Believe it or not, there's an increase in awareness around mental health, around um, dementia and Alzheimer's. So now more and more home care agencies are advertising that service, and they're also incorporating it into the training that they give their students or they give future aides. So we're able to provide cognitive memory care services to members who need it and who want to remain at home. It's important that you let the agency know, sometimes mom or dad forgets this, or they might leave the door open, or they might eat
Mhm.
something that they're not supposed to. And then in that instance, it's up to the aide to really monitor the member a little bit more closely and ensure that they are, not harming themselves and they're not harming other people. But that's definitely a possibility.
Mhm. And then you mentioned, at the next phase, you start to narrow it down and then meet with the potential health aide. And so I would think that's a biggie right there. Just the right, I don't know, personality, work ethic, all of those things. What advice would you give for the screening process?
Yeah, so for the screening process, I highly recommend that people always check out reviews. Go online, see what other families, other individuals are saying about the agency that you want to work with. Of course, I'm sure every once in a while there might be like 1 or 2 bad reviews, but if you consistently see bad reviews, I wouldn't recommend going with that agency. Ask your family and friends if they have anybody that they would recommend or any agency they would recommend to you. A lot of our referrals come from family recommendations, friends recommending their friends, or even case managers recommending people to us. So always look at the reviews and really make sure that you have a good understanding of the organization's reputation. You also want to make sure that they really emphasize quality training when it comes to their home health aides. So, like I mentioned, once you get certified, you're able to start working in the state of New Jersey. But, like with every industry, you want to ensure that you're continuously being trained, and the aides are going to be kept up to date with all of the trends that are happening in healthcare and home care. Like I said, a few years ago, a lot of people weren't really talking about home care and Alzheimer's. Now it's a really big deal. So whenever we do trainings, we make sure to incorporate all of the things that we're learning as an organization. We incorporate it into the training so that our aides are aware, and they, when they go into a home, they're well trained and they're well prepared.
Mm. And so, are there any limits or boundaries that a family should set before a home health aide comes in? How is it that they should prepare the home? If there's anything differently that they should do?
You want to just make sure that during this stage, there's a lot of communication that's going to be happening. Like
Hmm.
if you need a lock to get in the house and it's under a pot that's on the off to the side of the house, like you want to communicate things like that, because I can't tell you how many times we send somebody out, and then there's an elderly person that lives alone and they can't come downstairs to open the door, and we weren't provided with that information beforehand, so now we have to call somebody, a daughter or in-law or something, to come open the door. So you just want to communicate as much as possible. You
Hmm.
also want to ensure that the home is ready for, the aide to come in and do their work, whether that's, meeting them there on the first day, giving them a tour of where everything is,
Mm.
how, you like certain things done, how you like your meals prepared, your laundry done, all of that. You also want to let them know if there's anybody else that's living in the home or can be expected to be in the home while the aide is there, just for the aide's safety and awareness. So, like, does the member live alone? Do you live with family or friends? Who are those family or friends? What is their level of interaction going to be with the aide? That's another thing that's really important. And we always harp on our members, our no smoking policy. Sometimes we'll go into environments where, a member smokes or a family member smokes, and we usually just ask our members to, not smoke before the aide comes or while they're there, for the aide's safety. So those are just a few, home modifications that you might have to make when welcoming or preparing your home to receive an aide.
What about pets?
Oh yes, pets are important. A lot of people don't mind the super small dogs, but like if
Hmm.
you have like a huge dog, like a pit bull or a golden retriever, or a pet that's really active, or even a cat, anything. The dogs and cats are usually the two frequent ones that we see, but we find that most of the time, seniors, they usually don't have pets themselves, so it's not usually an issue. But if they do, we like to be made aware beforehand so that, again, we can prepare the aide going in. It's also important to know if your loved one needs a Hoya lift, which is a device that helps lift somebody out of bed, maybe take them to get a shower, move them around the home. It's important to know that, because that requires two people to operate that device legally. So
Mm.
that's something that a lot of people forget to tell us. And then
Mm.
our aide shows up and then they can't do it by themselves. So those are just some ways you can help prepare us as an agency so that we can prepare our aide.
You mentioned so many services like cooking meals. I hadn't even considered that. So, are there different levels that or plans? And are these subscriptions? Are they annually based? How does that play out in terms of the options and financially?
Again, it depends on the family and the individual. Some people's meal preparation is simple. I just need eggs and oatmeal for breakfast, and then like a sandwich for lunch and something for dinner. Other people subscribe to meal plans. There are companies out there that kind of like a HelloFresh.
Mhm.
Yeah, HelloFresh. There's versions of that for people with disabilities or for seniors, where your meal gets delivered to your home, and then all the aide has to do is like warm it up and then set it on the table. So you can come in at different price points for those services, but our aides are able to help with light meal preparation. So I always tell people, it's not going to be Thanksgiving dinner. They're not going to be making a turkey or lasagna.
Or the
But
greens?
yeah, because sometimes people, they request elaborate dishes to be made, and legally our aides are not able to do that. But easy things like oatmeal, eggs, cereal, sandwiches, run into the store to buy groceries, aides are able to help with that, because you have to think, when you get to a certain age, or if you're coming out of the hospital and you're recovering, those tasks that we take for granted can be really challenging for somebody to do, carrying bags and then going up the stairs and offload and everything. So we really try to set you up with an aid that's going to help you maintain the quality of lifestyle that you are used to and ensure that you're getting proper nutrition.
Mhm. So at WellCare, is it like pre-packaged services? You get this at one level and then additional services at another level, or is each one catered uniquely to, um, you know, the needs of the client?
Each one is catered uniquely to the needs of the client just because it really does vary person to person. So we
Mhm.
have a standard package that we offer with a set number of hours, and then within the hours you receive, you can break down, what days somebody comes and then
Mhm.
what tasks and duties they're doing to help you
Mhm.
live at home. So it really just depends. If your insurance is paying for it, it's going to look one way. And then if you're paying out of pocket, it's also going to look another way. But regardless of what, hours you have or what plan you have, we try to ensure that all of the things that you need support with on a day-to-day basis is handled while the aid is there.
That's great. And so if we could talk financially, so are any of these services covered by insurance? And what is that?
Yeah, let's definitely talk finances because home care and healthcare in general, we all know how expensive and how crazy these costs are becoming. And, home care is no different. On average, here in the state of New Jersey, I would say you can expect to pay anywhere from 35 to $45 an hour for home care services. And this varies. Like if you are in a area of the state or in the country that's a little bit more remote or has a higher cost of living, of course, you're going to expect to pay more. And if you're in an area that's a little bit more well connected and not as remote, you might be paying less. But on average, we're seeing $35 to $45 for most home care agencies. Now, I always tell young people and anybody really that will listen to start preparing for your retirement. I cannot understate this enough. In fact, we've started a series on our TikTok educating younger generations on what we can do to prepare as we age, because it's just not something that we think about. We all think we're going to be young forever. And unfortunately, that's not how life works. So we always recommend that you work with your insurance company first and foremost. If you are in the state of New Jersey and you have Medicaid, Medicaid covers the complete cost of home care services at no cost to you, or to your loved one. So if you have Medicaid, what happens is your insurance company, they will send out a nurse to do an assessment. And once they do that assessment, they determine how many hours of services you might need. So they might say like 15 hours a week or 30 hours a week. And then based on that, we'll provide you services and we'll break things down. And it's again, no cost to you if you don't have Medicaid. However, most people do not have Medicaid. A lot of seniors have Medicare, whether it's like Part A, Part B, C, and Medicare is a little bit more tricky. And if I'm being honest, I'm still navigating Medicare and I've been working here for 2 years. I just always hear different things. But for the most part, Medicare will only cover home care services if you've just been released from a hospital or a rehabilitation center and you need it for a short duration of time. It's not going to be something that they cover for a year. They might just cover it for 2 to 3 months under the circumstances of you, again, leaving the hospital or rehab. So that's how Medicare can cover home care for you. There's also long-term care insurance, which can help offset the cost of home health care services. So I definitely recommend, if you are, getting up there in age, consider getting long-term care insurance to help meet that gap that Medicare isn't going to meet. So those are just a couple of the financing options. There are other government programs that are available to people who don't have Medicaid, and we can talk about go into detail a little bit more about them. But always start planning for your retirement. A lot of people use their savings, invest in, sometimes you sell your home so that you can afford to essentially age and be a senior. But I will say it is very expensive. As we age, things just get more costly because our bodies change. We might need more support. Maybe before you used to be able to walk and run up a flight of stairs, but now you need an electronic wheelchair to get around, and that costs money. So just all those little expenses, with healthcare being the biggest expense that most seniors are putting their money towards. So just keeping that in mind.
That was extremely helpful in breaking that down with Medicare, Medicaid, and I'm sure it's definitely worth people just studying and doing some more research on. And perhaps we need to even have a Ask the Expert just dedicated to that. And so, what do you find that's happening trend wise with these types of services? Whether expanding new services or even with WellCare Nurses, what's coming for the future?
So I'm really excited to be in healthcare right now because there's just so much happening. And I think we're having conversations that we weren't having maybe 10, 15 years ago. There's a lot more talk about AI and tech coming into the home care space, which is really interesting. Like having cameras to monitor your loved one while they're receiving care, which is I think is phenomenal because it's important to have transparency and holds people accountable. So that's one thing that's coming down the pipeline. Another trend that we are seeing, like I mentioned, a lot of people want to remain at home as they age. So we're seeing an increase in the demand for these services. More people are opting out of, going to senior living facilities or nursing homes. And even when they're in those facilities, they're receiving help from home health aid. So those are two of the things that excite me. We do have an aging population. Millions of Americans are over the age of 65 now, and that trend is going to continue for the next several years. So I imagine that the demand for this field and healthcare in general will only increase. And I'm excited for that.
That is exciting. And yeah, that was one of my questions I was going to ask too. What is the feeling about cameras? I'm sure. I went to a do I share this? I went to a doggy daycare. We needed to put our dog somewhere, and we picked one that had a camera. So if I did that for my dog, I know I'm gonna do that for a loved one. And I do remember picking a daycare that had cameras too. So sounds like that your agency is all for it and have no issues with it.
I am absolutely all for it. And here's why. We work with vulnerable populations, right? People who have disabilities and people who are aging seniors. And, there there's room for abuse in the healthcare field, especially when you're working with a vulnerable population that might not always be in the position to advocate for themselves or,
Yeah.
say something if they're being abused. Like elder abuse is real and it's a lot more frequent than we think. So
Mm.
I think it's important to have cameras in the home if the member feels comfortable. A lot of our members don't have cameras in their homes, but for those that do, we support them in that decision because it's important for you to know what's going on. It's important for a loved one to make sure that their parents are okay or that their grandparents or aunts and uncles are being watched. A lot of seniors, fall down and there's nobody there for hours to help, take them to the hospital. And that's something that we see that happens frequently. So if there's a technology or a device that helps combat that and mitigate those issues, I'm all for it. There's also, I know I just mentioned falls, but there's also devices now and sensors that are helping families track falls. So kind of like Life Alert, but I guess for the modern era,
Mhm.
there's devices like that because that's something frequently that happens. So I
Yeah.
think technology is interesting. It's definitely going to help the healthcare space expand in new ways and be better overall.
Mm. So we have a few questions that are in the chat. And so you can see on screen now, it says that firms that provide the care, they don't do the vetting. We have care, but the person doesn't show up consistently. And when they do, they don't do much. So you need to have an additional person there, which defeats the purpose, right? Of needing, if that's the case, then that person would just be there. So how can someone avoid that? And then I don't know if, for example, at WellCare, are you locked in for a whole year or is it a month to month contract that you can get out anytime if you find that it's not meeting your needs or expectations?
Yeah, if you find that, our services are not meeting your expectations, we are more than happy to, provide you with resources to go to another agency and provide you with information, because at the end of the day, we really just want you to get the services that you deserve. But in the case that somebody, an aide is coming into your loved one's home and isn't doing what they're supposed to be doing, this really goes back to the first point I mentioned, really vetting the agency. Our home care agency, we do background checks on all of our aides, and we only work with people who are certified. And now that our training school is expanding, we are mainly going to be hiring from within our training program. So if you find that the person is not showing up consistently, contact the agency that they work for. Most agencies, I believe all, use the HHA Exchange app or the HHA platform, which is basically an app that allows the aide to clock in and out as they are entering the home and as they're leaving. So that's a wonderful way to track, like, okay, Susie is supposed to start work at 1 p.m., but for the last week, she showed up at 2 p.m. The app doesn't lie, and you can only clock in from, like, I think 25 feet or something. So things like that really helps hold professionals accountable. But if you are not satisfied with the services that your loved one is receiving, I would recommend moving to another organization.
Yeah, and industry wide are generally the contracts month to month, or are they annually? That do you have the freedom to get out? Is basically what I'm asking.
Yes, you do.
Mm. Okay, so I don't have my glasses with me. Sorry. So what is the stance when the client refuses a bath or to eat? Oh, so when you have a resistant client, there's a fine line of neglect or avoidance, and either party can claim it's the other person. So basically, if you have, what do you do when your parent is resistant and it's just the home care person doesn't want to get into an altercation, obviously, and they want to respect their client. So how do you balance that, and what do you do?
It definitely can be a tricky balance, and we always just ask our aides to communicate and to be patient with the people that they are supporting. So, it might be you have to wait 30 minutes or an hour to get that bath going or to begin feeding somebody. Sometimes people are resistant to that. And in instances like that, we find that working with the family and getting them to assist us and supporting their loved one is really the best route to go. Just because maybe there's something we don't know, or maybe there's something that the aide doesn't know. Maybe somebody likes, a warm bath instead of like a cold or a hot bath. And it's just a matter of making them feel a little bit more comfortable and more at ease with the aide. We find that as somebody is with a member for months and years, the level of comfort really helps. And, meals and baths, they're not really a problem anymore, but sometimes in the beginning, they can be a hindrance to service. So just communicating with the family, communicating with the agency, and we'll all get involved and work on finding a solution.
Yeah, what I hear you saying is that particularly if you're new to this type of experience, it does take time to build a relationship and maybe even consider a different health aid if the one that you have isn't able to break through. So are there any financial programs to avoid or minimize out-of-pocket expenses? I don't know if you know of any specifically.
Yes, I do, because we're always referring them to people, because I know that $35 to $45 an hour, it can be a lot. So in the state of New Jersey, there's the JACC program. So that's JACC, and it's the Jersey Assistant for Community Caregiving. So this is a program that provides in-home services to elderly residents who don't qualify for Medicaid. So you have to have Medicare for this program. And this is for people who wish to remain at home versus entering a nursing facility. So if you need help with, again, activities of everyday living, like personal care, respite care, hygiene, the JACC program is able to offer financial assistance. It's not going to be like expansive. It might be like 8 to 10 hours a week, but and I believe it's also subsidized, but that's a really good option. There's also the Home Friend program. Lots of counties have a home friend program where they'll send somebody out to you, like for 2-3 hours, a couple times a week, to again help with those activities of daily living and provide non-medical support. So all these programs provide non-medical support to elderly residents or people with disabilities that wish to remain at home and continue to live independently. And there's also the PACE program, which I believe is still fairly new to New Jersey. It's only been rolled out in a few places, but it's the same thing. It provides comprehensive healthcare services to seniors, and it doesn't matter if you have Medicare or Medicaid, you are eligible. So that's another alternative. So those three programs: call up your division of senior services for your county, wherever you live, ask if they have a home friend program, ask what services they might have for an elderly loved one who is at home and needs assistance. Become friends with them. A lot of people don't use the division of senior services or their senior centers, and those places are really great for resources, not just for home care services, but for free screenings or for setting up farmers markets or for getting you plugged in to different resources that are available in your state and in your community, like transportation services. So
that's awesome info. So yeah, tell us a little bit more about your business. Someone wants to know, are you guys franchising or considering franchising?
we haven't considered it yet. I'm open to it because I know that other home care agencies do, but at the present moment, we are not ready to franchise just yet. But if that's something that you're interested in getting into, or you would love to learn more about the home care field, feel free to shoot us a message and we can sit down and talk with you, because we, as an organization, we try to help whoever comes to us and is interested in starting a home care agency because the demand is there.
Wow. And so how should they contact you?
You can send us an email. You can send me an email at ugoeze@wellcarenurses.com.
And what region do you service?
We are mainly in northern New Jersey, so we provide services in Essex County, Bergen, Passaic County, and Union County. And by the end of this year, we're hoping to move into central and maybe even South Jersey, because there is a vacuum of caregivers there, and we're hoping to meet the needs of the seniors there because they need help as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, this has been so helpful. And so give us your website address.
Yeah, should I type it in the chat box or?
They'll put it on the screen if you mention it. Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's www.wellcarenurses.com. And we are located, our office is in East Orange, New Jersey, if you ever want to stop by and inquire about our services. But the best way to reach us is to give us a call at 973-566-6099.
That's great. And so we have another question that just popped in. How can you prove thefts in the home if you believe someone's stealing? So
yeah, that's definitely something that's common in this industry. We usually ask our aides to arrive to their work site with, small bags and all of that. But the best way to prove threats is unfortunately just to do an investigation and really get to the bottom of whether or not a theft has happened. Like I said, all of our aides, we do thorough background checks on them before hiring them. So ideally, that's not going to be an issue. But in the case that it is, we work with the family to get to the bottom of the issue and resolve it.
So this has been so great. We did put your email in the chat so people have that. And we're just so grateful. This was great information, Ugoeze. Thank you so very much for your time. Someone else, let's just see. What if the elder person falls in love with the caregiver? Can they take it further? I don't know. What is that boundary there?
Yeah, it's so important to have boundaries because somebody's coming into your home and into your intimate space. We do not encourage, fallen in love with our members and vice versa. We do encourage friendship and, working together to ensure you're getting the best care possible. But I've never really seen that happen before, if I be honest. I do know that there are some instances based on what I watched on like movies where an elderly person might fall in love with a younger person, but we haven't seen that in our organization. And if we thought that anything inappropriate was happening, we would conduct an investigation.
Like anything else. And then, so you did touch on this earlier. I'm not sure if the person heard any of it, but they're asking about specialized care. And if you can just touch on that briefly before we go.
Yeah, so we do provide specialized care. We have chronic care management. So if you recently just had a stroke, if you have high blood pressure, diabetes, we're able to provide services. Memory care is something that we are also experts in. And like I mentioned, we have a training school, so our aides are being trained on memory care and what to watch out for and how to, provide services to a member who has cognitive decline, whether that's Alzheimer's or dementia or other forms. We're also incorporating mental health training into our HHA school because we've seen an increase in inquiries and demand for home care services for different mental health ailments.
Mm-hmm. So, thank you so very much. We're just so grateful. I think that is it with the questions at the moment. Everyone, thank you so much for being patient with me. I didn't have my glasses today, so I struggled a bit with the questions. But the questions are coming in, and you've just been a wealth of information for us on this topic. We're so grateful. And that concludes another episode of Ask the Expert. Do know that Ask the Expert is powered by Prudential. We are grateful for their sponsorship. As always, you have access to licensed financial advisors, and you can go to our website to schedule an appointment with one of our licensed financial advisors. And see you next time. Next week, same time, same place. Bye.
Bye, everyone.